It's Jane Carroll now. Catch the West Side Morning Report with Dave Bourne tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Only on KUIK.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, it's time for John Charles from the Cascade Policy Institute, where they do excellent analysis and research so that we can present the arguments that we need to present to our public officials and leaders in this state with clarity and conviction that the homework has been done. And John Charles does amazing work. Today he's going to talk to us about TriMet's adopted budget for fiscal year 2018 is out. It begins on July 1st. And guess what? The budget shows no connection between TriMet revenue and the levels of service provided. Same old stuff, huh, John?
It's a long and sad story, Jane. They're very proud that their budget, which is now over $1 billion a year,
wow,
will have no fare increases for about the fifth year in a row. But to me, that's actually a bad thing, because it means increasingly each year the actual passengers are paying less and less of a percentage of the total cost. And so next year, it's likely the passengers will pay only 10% of the total budget, and all the rest will come from taxpayers.
When they pay.
Yeah, that's also true, right?
And on buses they pay because they get bus drivers, but on light rail that comes and goes. They go through enforcement periods and then they go through nothing. And personally, I wish they had spent more time sort of protecting the citizens from being stabbed on their vehicles.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to hold that too much against TriMet. I mean, crazy things happen in the public realm, and it's not totally their fault. But I will say that, they keep spending more and more, like in this case, over the last 10 years, I mean, their operations revenue has gone up about 51%, and yet bus service, which is the real workhorse that carries about two-thirds of all passengers, has barely improved. In fact, over the last 10 years, bus service has only gone up by about 1%. So you can say, well, where all the money go? And they say, well, we're running light rail vehicles, and they have more seats, and so that makes up the difference. Well, okay, since 2008, light rail services has only gone up 14%. So you still have this question of where did all the money go if revenue went up 51% for operations? And, the sad fact is, the bigger they get, the more tax revenue that they can take without really asking for it, the more discretion they have where to spend it. And so they continue to lard up one of the most outrageous benefits plans in the whole country, where every year now they spend, their ratio of benefits to wages is more than 100%. It's 123% benefits to wages. And that doesn't benefit someone on the side of the road waiting for a bus to come along. That just benefits TriMet employees.
Right. And so it's pretty frustrating to people, and of course the businesses that pay the TriMet tax as well, based on the supposedly they benefit from light rail because I guess they bring their workers to and from them, all of them. I don't know, never quite understood that, but it's just more the same thing. TriMet's losing market share. It's losing revenue. The costs are going up. And while you say you don't blame TriMet for what happens on Max because some psycho guy does some things, and I think that's fair. But light rail has been, particularly at night, has been notoriously unsafe for years.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I believe the primary reason that TriMet has a security team of very expensive sworn officers, whose average compensation, I think, is over $100,000 total. They have, I think, over 30 people on the security team. Well, if you can just ask the question, if we had no light rail, if it was bus only, would we still need that many security people?
No.
And my answer is no, because part of the safety of a bus is that you have a real person, a bus driver, up front. And when I used to commute every day, which I don't anymore, but when I used to commute every day from downtown Portland on Max out to the end of the line, and then eventually catch a bus to the little city of Sandy, when they had their own either TriMet's bus or later they became their own bus system. It was amazing to me that I see some really obnoxious people on the train, teenagers especially, get off and transfer to the bus to Sandy with me, and on the bus, a little mini bus, they were quiet as church mice. Well, yeah, there's a bus driver about 10 feet away, and there's no room to be a jerk. Everyone's close together in a little bus. And so, the trains being big with two cars and one operator enclosed in a front office there, it does encourage and reward or enable outrageous social behavior.
Yep, it really does. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people don't use, particularly in the evening. Women don't like to use it.
Right.
You don't want your children on it.
Right.
And it's one of their problems is they have limited capacity to begin with, but
right.
They haven't dealt with this issue, and it's very underreported.
Yes.
I mean, there was a stabbing of somebody over at Lloyd Center at a light rail stop recently. That got a little attention, but that one didn't end in a death and two deaths in this case, which is just terrific. But it's light rail is not a safe place to be much of the day. So.
Right. No, I agree. So it's really sad. People don't have the historic perspective. They forget that 50 years ago, transit in Portland was completely privately run, private for-profit, dividend-paying, tax-paying companies like Rose City Transit. And 48 years ago, Rose City Transit was specifically put out of business by the Portland City Council, and TriMet was created in the 1969 legislature on this utopian, naive assumption that a government-run monopoly, less dependent on fares and more dependent on a new set of taxes, would be more efficient and effective than those greedy private bus companies. And I think 48 years later, we can see for sure that the Portland City Council in 1968 and 69, they were just wrong, totally wrong. The public monopoly sector has not been more efficient or effective, and every year they become more taxpayer reliant and less reliant on actual passenger fares, and that just creates all kinds of mischief.
And the public, particularly the consumers of it, don't particularly care because they're either not a business owner that pays the TriMet tax, or they may not be paying federal taxes at all. And it is a whole group of people that think this is all wonderful. But when is it going to actually implode? Because I've been expecting it fiscally with its, as you point out, its benefits that they pay out. It's unsustainable, yet they keep being sustained.
Sad to say, the legislature in 2003 and again in 2009 authorized Lane County Transit and TriMet, because those are the only two that have a payroll tax, to regularly increase their payroll tax rate. So every January, TriMet gets to raise their rate, and so that's the bailout. Allows them to do foolish things like pay more in benefits than they do in wages. And sadly, virtually every so-called business trade association has been on board with these tax increases. They simply don't put up a fight. It's very sad.
It really is. Where can people get more information about this, Mr. Charles?
CascadePolicy.org.
Yeah, it's great stuff. But this is a story that's only going to get bigger and probably far worse. And we appreciate your clarion calls and your great research. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jane.
Bye-bye. We'll be back.